If you like allegorical novels that contend with religious motifs, messianic symbolism, and sci-fi landscapes, then this book is for you. Stay tuned. Welcome to Biblioccultist, where I review books that I find interesting in the topics of religion, philosophy, history, and fiction. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, like the video, share the video, and comment on the video. Also, don't forget to follow me on X and check out my merch store if you're interested in promoting the channel, and I really appreciate it for doing all these things. In this episode, I'm going through a classic of modern literature called Dune by Frank Herbert. Now, this is a nice edition, still out there and easy to find, by Ace Books from 2005. And I always say get any edition. I mean, you'll definitely find plenty of alternatives for this particular book since it's so popular. And there are movies out there and series, so just get any edition that works for you. Now, this awesome book deals with consciousness and the inner psychology of religion in a very unique way. So it is both a simple and complex formulation of ideas, and it strangely aligns with the reader's own religious perspective. So irrespective of what your background is, it is very easy to identify the basic premises of the work and to emotionally connect with the ideas in the book, even though its basic parameters and setting is a classic sci-fi speculation and fancifulness. Now, just like most sci-fi novels, this work does not really break from the classic medieval structure of an epic. So I know there have been experimental type of sci-fi that I do find interesting as well. But here, the author sticks to the classic structure and presents a world in which modern politics and human interaction is pretty much identical to our reality, but it is enhanced by the circumstances and the particular religious perspective. Because in this world, religion plays a very big role. And even though there's a cynicism when it comes to the religions in this particular dimension, it seems to also point to the fact that religion is inevitable, that human beings must and will always have religious perspectives, religious cults, religious institutions, and that this dynamic is just part of human interaction. It's inevitable. And for this reason, the work is highly political, like most social commentary works at the time. So when you read the novel, it is really about politics, not so much about futurism or speculations about technology or how different it will be for human beings at some future point or alternative reality. But it's really more about moving actual realistic problems into a different setting and seeing how they manifest there. Now, what makes this work highly fascinating, especially for people that love studying religious movements, is that he uses a lot of Muslim concepts. And I would say it's the most Islamic sci-fi work I have ever encountered. So it could be another one, and put it in the comments if you know of another work that incorporates a lot of the Islamic culture into its own palette and presents it in this way. I mean, I've never encountered one. And I know the author was deeply involved in studying the culture, and it's easy to tell by reading it. And a lot of people may think it's the whole sand dune and the setting itself, it's perfect to make this kind of allegorical connection for the author, but it goes a lot deeper than that. I think he imbibes very nicely the spirit of the Islamic culture, at least as far as he can perceive it and present it, because he's not a Muslim himself. But from an outsider perspective, he does a good job. And from the political perspective, it's pretty clear that he's presenting the native Bedouin point of view, the North African point of view in the face of colonialism. So a lot of people make that analogy when it comes to films like Star Wars, in which you have a rebel force fighting against a colonial empire. And you have some of this clearly in a lot of the landscapes in that film. And here you have something very similar. It's using the sci-fi model to explore these concepts in a somewhat non-threatening way by putting a large distance between our current world and this fictional place. And it's a smart way of doing it because you're creating a buffer zone of deniability, if you will. So I have two particular quotes I want to go through because I think they encapsulate very well the spirit of the work, and I can use it to elaborate a little bit.
Grave this on your memory, lad. A world is supported by four things.
She held up four big-knuckled fingers.
The learning of the wise, the justice of the great, the prayers of the righteous, and the valor of the brave. But all of these are as nothing.
She closed her fingers into a fist.
Without a ruler who knows the art of ruling. Make that the science of your tradition.
That's a really cool way of communicating the complex structure of an actual state. The Varnashrama, as the Vedic culture would say, the caste system, as some people would call it, the Platonic conception of a republic, in which you have division of labor but all working together for doing a single purpose. The warrior, the religious, the intellectual, all of them kind of working together to make something happen, but adding the conception of ruling, of hierarchy itself as an art form. Another part that I do wish to quote is from a fictional work within Dune itself, which are the collected sayings of Muad'Dib by Princess Irulan. And hopefully I'm pronouncing her name correctly. But I think it's a beautiful presentation of the general idea of the work as well.
Greatness is a transitory experience. It is never consistent. It depends in part upon the myth-making imagination of humankind. The person who experiences greatness must have a feeling for the myth he is in. He must reflect what is projected upon him, and he must have a strong sense of the sardonic. This is what uncouples him from belief in his own pretensions. The sardonic is all that permits him to move within himself. Without this quality, even occasional greatness will destroy a man.
So here you can tell and you can envision that the notion of myth-making itself as part of the real feeling of a human being is the actual predicate for all existence, that human beings cannot live without myth-making, and that myth-making itself can also have a dark side in which the person loses himself in this reality unless there is a level of cynical realism involved. And I think it's actually very good advice for a ruler, but it also feeds into the general dynamic of the work, which is the interrelationship between expectations, prophecy, destiny, and just mere belief. And I think this is why it may not have been the author's principal intention in the work as a whole, but a lot of the characters criticize secularism because they consider it to be a divorce between morality, righteousness, and politics. Religion is inherently political, and even politics has an inherently religious undertone, because any political affirmation is about making claims of right and wrong, which is in the realm of ethics. And religion navigates ethics as its primary conduit. It simply adds justification for its ethics and explanations and roots everything in the metaphysical and the philosophical, but politics derives from philosophy. So I don't see really a way of separating these two, and I agree with the characters on that point. I think that every time we pretend to have this separation, it's all smoke and mirrors for the truth. I'd rather have a politician tell me where they get their ethics than pretend that he has no ethics, as if this is good, or to somehow say that his ethics are just secular somehow. Because it will always be rooted on something, and if it's not a religious point of view, it's going to be a quasi-religious point of view. And this work, because of its focus on religious belief, in the appendix, he divides up the different religions, right? So you have the followers of the 14 sages, which follow a book called the Orange Catholic Bible. The Bene Gesserit, that even though deny themselves to be a religious order, they function as a religious order. You have the Guild, basically an agnostic ruling class. So they believe the religion is a good tool, but they don't necessarily believe in it. So there's a cynicism involved. You have the so-called ancient teachings, which the appendix says is part of the first, second, and third Islamic movement. So there you go, he uses the Islamic term directly. But you have the Nava Christianity and the Buddhist-Islamic variants, so that he's blending all these ideas in a future in which all these religious movements became something else, but they're still, at the core, a reference to real-world religion. And then he also adds space travel as a form of religious belief, the desire for exploration as a manifestation of humankind's desire for universal manifestation and spreading into the vast unknown, and he puts that as a religious category as well, which again is interesting. So anyway, the work in totality is a highly religious work, obviously from a futuristic and experimental point of view, but it really discusses these points in a very beautiful and interesting way. I tried my best not to spoil anything here, but just to present the ideas and notions involved and encourage you to go out and get yourself a good quality edition of it. I will eventually review the other books in the series, but this is the heart of the entire series and the classic one, so I thought this would be the correct place to start. So hopefully you enjoyed the review. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, like the video, share the video, and comment on the video. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for being with me. See you next time.